Hello and welcome to Cooking at Our Wits End on a Knife's Edge. I'm Chef Damien. Today we're going to be making some gnocchi. They're just a few simple ingredients. We have some nice potatoes here, an egg, some flour, a little kosher salt. So for this batch, I'm using about 2 pounds of potatoes, about 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, about 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and 1 large egg. And these numbers are approximate because every potato is a little different. Has a little more moisture, a little less moisture, so you kind of have to get a feel for it. It's an art. So step 1 is we'll bake the potatoes. I already have my oven preheated. I always try to preheat ahead of time so that way the whole oven heats up, the walls get hot, so when you open it up, temperature doesn't drop too much. So step 1, just poke your holes. Nice and easy, both sides. And then I like to nestle it into this rock salt, ice cream salt. You'll find it at the store as ice cream salt. It helps control the moisture levels and heat levels really well. So after you've done that, just pop it right on in the oven. Those should take somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour to bake. All right, it's time to check our potatoes. So they're nice and soft, so I'll take them out of the salt. And then we'll cut them in half, scoop out the insides, and put them through our food mill. It's always, you can use a rice or a food mill, something like that. You get a much better texture than if you just straight up mash them. You will have to scrape a certain amount of salt off. Your hands are probably not going to be anywhere near as sturdy as mine, just because I've been doing this for a very, very long time. So you can let this cool a little bit so that you can touch them. But ideally you do this while the potatoes are still warm to hot. So we'll set that there. I just set this aside, probably on top of the stove. Just let it cool down slowly. Then you can put this back in the box, use it again. You can tell that I've used it many times. Between the baking and the fact that it's salt, it's really not going to do anything antisocial. There we go. Hot potato, hot potato. 1, 2. If you end up with any little black specks like I've got up here, just leave those out. Don't need those. So you can see, you might be able to see, it's steaming, very hot. It's going to make the processing easier. But like I said, don't be a hero. Don't burn yourself. It's too hot for you to handle. Don't handle it. So if you want, you can save these, make potato skins, something like that, fill them with cheese and bacon and onions and all that good stuff. All right. So, long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I used to make this at a restaurant every single day. I'd make, I don't know, 20 potatoes worth. So yeah, every day, got used to it. It's a relatively straightforward process, but it does take a little bit of practice to get really good at it. You want to make sure that you don't overwork, because you can develop gluey nature from either overworking the flour or overworking the potato starch. So you can make this with cup for cup. or a flour substitute similar to that. Pretty straightforward. It actually can make things easier because the cup for cup flour does not have any gluten to be developed, and so you're not going to end up with any gluey bits from that. So now I have my smallest size in my food mill. You don't want to have anything too big, just so that you don't have to worry about working it too much. Okay. Skins are out of the way. Not pictured here, me washing my hands thoroughly before doing this. You always want to keep your hands nice and clean, just so that you don't introduce anything antisocial, germs, bacteria into this. People often think adding salt along here that at the picnic, the potato salad that gave them food poisoning, that it was the mayonnaise. No, in reality, it was probably the potatoes. Potatoes got cooked, didn't get cooled properly, and then just sat there and let things grow. They've got a certain amount of moisture, they've got a certain amount of protein, and so if you're not careful, you can make people sick with potatoes or rice, anything starchy like that. So you see that I go backwards. That kind of clears up any blockages, and if you use one of these, you'll see what I mean. You get some bits and gunk, so forth. So I'll take my spatula, knock things off the side because we've kind of come to an impasse. Set that back down. There we go. There we go. Scrape the rest of that off the bottom. And you can see how light and fluffy and airy this is. So then we have our egg. We'll just go ahead and add the egg and generally work that through. And this is still steaming, so it's still very warm. We go folding this all the way through. Make sure I don't have any yellow streaks. I want to make sure that yolk is thoroughly mixed through. I'm not concerned about developing gluten at this point because I haven't added the flour. So you can't really develop the gluten until you've added the gluten. So part of this is we want to keep this light and fluffy and airy. Gnocchi means pillows, so we want to keep it nice and pillow-like. This will be much different than the stuff that you get at stores, if it's been shelf-stable especially, or even if it's in the freezer a grand majority of the time. It's going to be worked much more, and it'll be definitely chewier little balls than we're going to have here. We're going to have nice, light, fluffy pillows. Set that aside. Now I've got flour, and I've got a sieve. I want to sieve this, so let's see. Put some in, down onto the board, so I don't end up with giant chunks of flour in the end. Right. Set that there. Go. That comes out. Now, one of the things that I will typically do when I get to this stage is all the stuff that has the potato starch on it, I'll just go ahead and run that under water. Just let it soak so that everything doesn't glue, especially this. So get a little more flour sifted on the top. Now, I always refer to these as dough knives. Some people refer to them as bench scrapers. The goal of this is to work the flour through the dough as much as possible without kneading it. So just cut it right in. Now, I want to occasionally scrape down the edges so that you still have nice thin blades to cut with, as opposed to just having a big old cakey thing that just munches. How much flour gets worked in is directly related to how much moisture is in the potato. So the less moisture that the potato has, the less flour you will work through. So that's part of why this is a bit of an art, in addition to being a science, just because you have to practice, see, get the feel of it. Okay, as things begin to spread out, pull them back towards the center. So it looks like we're going to use less than the full cup and a half, and that's okay, because the other half is just kind of over there clean and can go right back into the canister. We'll see. Still have to roll it out, so I might use some more. Set these aside. It's still warm, slightly moist to the touch, but as you can see, you can kind of munch it together. It mostly holds its shape. So we're going to knead it a little bit. It needs a little assistance, but not too much. We don't want to sit here and just keep going at it like a loaf of bread. That will make it a little too gummy, a little too chewy. Well, one of the nice things about this is that it will actually freeze really well. I like to freeze it uncooked, and then I will typically finish it by getting a nice big pot of water, large pot, more water than you think you need, plenty of salt, and then putting it in frozen. So that way it has a better fighting chance of staying together, staying as one sort of cohesive unit instead of falling apart. Now tonight we're just going to cook it directly in the pan, which is kind of unusual, but you can do it as long as you have some nice fresh gnocchi. So all the potato is cooked. It's got enough moisture to finish cooking the flour. Okay, so you can see a nice ball there. Cut this into quarters, just so it's a little easier to handle. Got this somewhat limited workspace. There we go. I can still feel it's still a bit warm. That's a good thing. So now we have the flour here. This flour will become our bench flour. Bench flour, you say? Yes, bench flour. It's called that because it is flour for your bench. And this is our bench. Okay. Start by making a little bit of a log there. little flour just so it doesn't get too sticky. I personally like to roll this out about to my thickness of my thumb. Makes a nice little packet, a nice little pillow of lovely deliciousness. If it starts to get a little too long, just switch it to corner to corner. It is a little bit different size as you go along, but it's mostly about the same size. There we go. One of the things you do want to do, if you decide you're going to freeze it, you'll want to freeze it flat on a cookie sheet, something like that. Line the bottom with either cling wrap or parchment paper or something. Put some flour down, flour it nicely so that the whole gnocchi gets covered with flour. That way it doesn't end up becoming one gnocco, one nice big large lumpy mass. That really wouldn't be what you want. You can tell I'm a little bit out of practice because they're all relatively different lengths, but we'll live. Life will go on. I'm going to just line up our little logs, our little snakes, just like so. And I like to measure with my thumb. So, about the middle of my thumb knuckle. Put these aside. Try to make them relatively equally sized, just so they cook about the same. So they cook in about the same amount of time. Slide things over. Once again, scraping the edge every so once in a while so it cuts as opposed to lunges. No munching here. Occasionally you end up with a little strange piece. Should be alright. Should be fine. You'll live, I promise. If you were at the restaurant, I probably wouldn't save that. Probably wouldn't save that one, but we're not, so I will. So then just make nice little round pillows, like so. And I'll complete that for the rest of these. Now, if you wanted to, and you have it, you can get a little gnocchi board and do the little roll. I don't, so I won't. And there we have some beautiful little gnocchi. If you like these, want to see what we're going to do with them, you're going to have to come back and see the next video. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and see you then.